Hello. So if we have this set up right, you should be able to hear me, but I can't hear you. So that is good. Hello, welcome. Perfect. I'm just giving you another second just to see. Oh, we were supposed to have a few people join. I know some people now can't make it, but we'll just give you another minute just to see if people turn up. But welcome to the introduction to Pilates. So if you've ever done Pilates before, then that's fantastic. But this is going to be taken right back to basics, to complete beginners. And we're just going to talk through the principles of the setup. We're going to talk about breathing, how to do it, how to lie in the right positions, and just mainly the principles of Pilates. If anybody does have any back issues or neck problems, anything like that, anything that you think is going to get in the way of doing your sessions, then obviously take the class as easy as possible. We're not going to be overworking anything. This is basically right from beginners. But if you are experiencing any pain, then get in touch with us afterwards, because we might be able to give you some advice, tell you how to modify the exercises in order to help you. Or it may even be you need a little bit of a one-to-one just to get you set up and see what you're doing. So, how are we doing for time? There's a couple of you here, so we'll see how we get on, and anyone can join us as and when they get here. So let me just set this up so I can actually see myself. Perfect. Okay. What you need is a bit of space, because we're going to start off standing and then we're going down onto the floor. So if you find yourself space, we're going to start standing. So I can see me. There we go. Okay, so within Pilates, we talk a lot about balance and finding our neutral position. So we're going to talk about a neutral position standing first of all. And this is brilliant, regardless of whether you're doing it for Pilates or just for general posture. But find yourself a little position on the floor where your feet are hip width apart. So you're not standing with too wider stance, and very clearly not standing with your feet together. You want to imagine that your ankles are down directly underneath your hips. Okay, and first of all, we're just going to find the right position for our feet to be in. So all we're going to do is we're just going to roll your weight forwards onto your toes, and then take your weight back onto your heels. Try when you come forward onto your toes, don't lift your heels, and when you go onto your heels, don't lift your toes. So just connect with what's going on through your feet, take yourself forwards and backwards, and just feel where the different weight is going through your feet. Because what I'm going to ask you to do in a second is find yourself a position halfway between all on your toes and all on your heels. So we've got equal pressure going through the balls of your feet as you have got through your heels. Okay, so take yourself that movement smaller and smaller until you get to that midway position. Perfect. Okay, so when you feel like you're there, just check in with your toes that they're not gripping onto the floor, and then check in with your heels that you're not putting all the weight down through your heels. Okay, we're going to take our attention up to your knees. Now, it's quite common for us all to stand with the knees locked quite back. Okay, so I just want you to make sure that your knees are not locked and they're in a nice soft position. Okay, so if I was from the side, this is knees locked back, this is knees nice and soft. This is where we've gone a little bit too far. Okay, so it's not a knee bend, it's just a nice natural neutral position. So if you lock your knees back, you can feel that's the locked position. If you're quite tight through your legs and things like that, it is a quite normal way for people to stand, but it's not great because it engages the muscles more than they should be. So take them from that locked position into that soft, neutral position. So you've got that locked and soft. Okay, and once you've got your knees into that soft position, just check back in with your feet that nothing's changed through that weight bearing position. So you've got equal pressure on your toes and as your heels again. Okay, so we're coming up to the pelvis position now, okay? So here's where we have to think about what's happening through your back, and Some people are very arched through the back, very arched and round, and some people are quite slumped under and tucked under. So you want to imagine that your pelvis is like a bowl of water. We're going to talk a lot about bowls of water today. So you want to imagine you're tipping the water out the front of the pelvis, of the bowl, and then tipping the water out the back of the bowl. Okay, so just do a little bit of a movement like that, and you want to find yourself halfway so that you're just balancing that water in a nice straight line, if you like. Okay, and once you've done that, so we're going forwards and backwards, find that neutral position, and again check in with the knees are back where they should be, check in with the feet that you've still got the weight bearing going through the right position in your feet. Okay, then we come up to the rest of the spine. So we're going to imagine that someone has stuck a hook in the top of your head and it's going to pull you up towards the ceiling. So you're imagining that each of those vertebrae in your back are getting lengthened, and there's going to be creating a space between each of the vertebrae. So you're standing up about an inch taller. Okay, so when we imagine that, we go from standing like this to standing in a very sort of much more neutral position, a much more upright position. Okay, so lengthening up through the spine. Now have a think about your head. So ears should be directly on top of your shoulders. So if I'm standing to the side here, what we want is we don't want to have the head too far forward. We want to have the head so that it's in line with everything. So if we were to draw a line, if I was looking at you from the side and I was drawing a line all the way down through your body, a straight line should go through your ear, through your shoulder, through your hip, through your knee and through your ankle. Okay, so we shouldn't be sort of like all higgledy-piggledy. There should be a very straight line, easily drawn through all of those joints. Okay, so just have a think about how you can get yourself into that position. And as you're lengthening up through the spine, we're just going to think about what's happening at your shoulders. Seeing a lot of people at the moment with shoulders like this, not unsurprisingly, but let's try and just imagine that your shoulder blades are softening down into your back pockets and your arms are nice and heavy down by your sides. So we're trying to take the tension out around this neckline, shoulders, and you're just imagining your shoulder blades without working them too hard, but just imagine them sort of drifting down into opposite back pockets. Okay, so rather than going straight down, because when we imagine pulling them straight down, we tend to do a bit of this. So you pull them down like that. Whereas if you imagine them going into opposite back pockets, we sort of open up through the chest a little bit more, and we're just placing the shoulder blades back and down. Okay, so good. Now, just check in with yourself. How does this all feel? Because if this feels normal to you and how you would normally stand, then well done, because that is a pretty awesome posture. But if you're starting to feel, as most people do when we set them up in these positions, like, cool, I feel like I'm really out of place now, don't worry, because you're not. We've now put you in a position that is much more neutral to your spine. So this is a position where there is less pressure put through the joints, there's less muscle activation working through muscles that may be working a little bit too much. Yes, you may have just turned some muscles on and switched them on to make them work, but they're probably the ones that needed to be working a little bit harder. Okay, so from here, all we're going to get you to do now is we're going to engage with the breathing a little bit. So I'd like you to put one hand onto the side of your rib cage here and one hand underneath your tummy button. Okay, so when we do Pilates breathing, what we try to do is expand through the ribs, and not just the upper ribs. We want to draw the air down into the lungs and really open up through this lower part of the ribs. So we're really working through the diaphragm. But in order to do that, we're trying not to use your abdomen and your tummy muscles. So just without thinking too much about what's happening, put one hand underneath your tummy button, one hand onto the side of the ribs, and just take a nice breath in, a little bit deeper than you would normally, but not too deep breath. So take a deep breath in, well, deeper breath in, and then breathe out. Okay, now, if you felt your ribs move here, perfect. But if you felt like it was all coming more through the ribs, or you felt like this hand in your tummy was pushing out, then what we need to now do is try and focus it down into the ribs. So one hand onto the rib cage, keep that hand underneath your tummy button. Let's do a few more breaths and really focus on imagining that the ribs are just widening and opening out and then softening and coming back in as you're breathing. So here we go, nice breath in. Feel those ribs open out as you breathe in. Breathe out, let them soften down. Nothing's happening down here. This hand is staying nice and still. Now, it doesn't matter if your shoulders start to rise and fall as you do that. That's perfectly fine. What I do want you to feel is something happening through the rib cage, though. Don't worry if it's not happening for you yet. This can just be homework. A couple more breaths. Really feel the ribs opening and softening in as you breathe out. One more breath. Here we go. Breathe in. And breathing out, just let the ribs just soften in as they breathe in. So, like I said, if that felt perfectly easy, brilliant, you're on the right road. If that felt a little bit tricky, and to be honest, most people do find it tricky when they first start because it's not the most normal way, especially if you've been in a job where you've sat quite a lot of time. When you're sat, your ribs get kind of compressed, so we develop breathing through the upper part of our chest. Whereas if you've been in a job where you've been able to be sort of up and mobile, it might be easier for you to use that part of your rib. So all it is just a little bit of practice. Take yourself into that position and practice again. We'll probably visit it again when we get down onto the mat. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to work on seeing if we can get some mobility going through the spine. We're going to take it into a little bit of a roll down. And we're going to try and imagine each one of the bones individually are going to start to move. So get yourself into that neutral position again. So you've got equal pressure, front and backs of your feet. Knees are nice and soft and you've been lengthened up through the spine. Okay, from here, we're going to drop your chin down towards your chest, but it doesn't touch your chest. So you're going to imagine you've got a really ripe peach or tomato, whatever you want, underneath your chin. So it stops you gripping your chin right in towards your chest. What we want to do is lengthen through the back of the neck and just create a little tilt through the chin. So we're lengthening and tilting, and from here we're rolling forwards. What we're not doing is jamming your chin towards your chest and letting everything sort of curl in. Okay, here we go. So lengthen through the spine. Chin comes down towards your chest, but at the same time you're lengthening up through your spine. So imagine your ears are just aiming towards the ceiling a little bit more. So from here, we're going to start to work down. I want you to think about opening the bones in the upper part of your back, so round where your shoulder blades are. So if you just watch for a second, as you work your way down, the temptation straight away is to do this. Okay, so what you're going to do is just switch on your bottom muscles so that they are just keeping your pelvis on top of your hips and your knees. And we're going to focus the upper part of the back to move. So we're going to just let your hands roll down towards your knees and then restack the spine one by one as you come back up like that. Okay, so I'll talk you through it. So nice neutral position. Lengthen through the spine. Tilt your head, chin down towards your chest. Lift your ears up towards the ceiling. And then keep your bottom activated so that your hips are staying still. And you're just rolling yourself forwards a little bit as you take your hands down. Now, just think about opening just the upper bones of your spine. Don't worry about anything lower down. We're going to come back up. So imagine you're placing each of those bones back on top of each other, one by one. And as you come up, watch your shoulders. This is what people tend to do. They come back up like this, with shoulders up near your ears. So think about trying to create that space between ears and shoulders. Now, I appreciate there's a lot of information there, so we're just going to go through a couple of these. So, lengthening through the spine. Ears go up towards the ceiling. You're going to drop your chin down towards your chest, and we're going to think about opening each of those bones in your spine as you roll yourself forwards. And then really gently come back up. Thinking about putting your shoulder blades into opposite pockets as you roll yourself back up, come up nice and tall. Great. See if you can go down just a tiny little bit further this time. So lengthen through the neck, chin comes down towards your chest, and just peel yourself down, opening each one of those bones in your spine as you lower your hands down towards your knees. And then restack one by one. Shoulders come away from your ears as you come back up. Perfect. Right. This time we're going to go all the way down towards the floor, and you're going to notice at what point your hips start to join in, because they will do at some point. Some of you'll be able to get, if you're quite flexible through your spine, you'll be able to get a long way down before your hips join in. For others, they're just going to kick in straight away. So just take note when it happens. So let's start again. Lengthen up through the spine, chin towards your chest, peel yourself through the upper part of your back. Now we're going to try and take the movement a little bit lower, so you're coming down through the lower part. Now, I'm going to keep trying to activate through my glutes, so I'm trying to keep my spine so that I'm opening up the lower part of my back and not allowing this to happen too soon. But once I've gone as far as I can, then I'm going to allow my hips to roll. And we're just going to see how far towards the ground that we can get. And then very slowly, we're going to stack back up. So you lengthen through your legs, tilt under with your pelvis. Now we're going to imagine you're rebuilding your spine, one vertebra on top of the other as you're placing them back up. Shoulders come away from your ears and you're up nice and tall. Okay, so we got one more roll down in your own time. Now, if you do experience any back pain, again, you just stop. And the reason that you don't get all the way towards the floor sometimes is not because of mobility in your back. Well, it might be, but it's not always mobility in your back. It's how tight your hamstrings are as well. So it may be these are things that we're going to need to work on. Okay, let's do one more roll down. So lengthen the neck, chin towards your chest. Really think about opening one on top of the other. So you're taking one vertebra down, then the next, then the next. Try not to just fold forward like a board. That's it. Just gently roll through all the way down towards the floor. And on the way back, we're going to restack one by one. Tuck under with your hips. Get your hips on top of your ankles as soon as you can. And that makes sure that you're working through your spine on the way back and not your hips. Shoulders come round into your back pockets and you're lengthening up through your neck. Super. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to take you down onto the mat. We're going to look at how we set up on your back. So sit yourself down onto the mat and then very gently just take yourself onto your back. Okay, so you should be able to see okay there. Right, so a lot of the Pilates exercises take place on the back, and a lot of the prep and workshop stuff takes place on your back. So let's get neutral set up correct. Start with, always with your knees up when we talk about neutral position. Start with your knees and your feet together, and then we need to get feet and knees hip width apart. So the best way to do this is what we call like the Charlie Chaplin move. So keep your heels together, turn your feet out as wide as you can, and place them onto the mat. Then place the balls of your feet into the mat and bring your heels round so that they are facing forward. So this should be, your foot size is sort of proportional to how wide your hips are. So you should be able to just sort of look down now and see that the knees are roughly hip width apart, and again your feet should be the same position apart. Okay, so that's leg position. Now we need to do pelvis position. So we're going to talk about that bowl of water again. You're going to imagine that that is sitting on top of your pelvis. Okay? So from here, we're going to try and tip the water out as if you're tipping it down towards your toes. So as you tip it down towards your toes, what you're doing is you're arching through your back and you're tipping, almost pushing your pubic bone down towards your feet. Okay, and then we roll back the other way, nice and gently, don't just let it collapse. Roll back the other way, come past that middle position you started at, and now see if you can flatten your spine towards the mat, but at the same time, you're almost lifting your hips, but nothing's coming off the mat. So hips are tilting. You might even feel that your glutes are starting to activate a little bit. Okay, so we're just going to ask you to go forwards and backwards a few times. You might notice that you travel one way a lot more than you do travel the other, and that's all to do with how your spine is. Some people are very arched, some people are very flat. So go all the way down towards your toes, and then roll all the way back towards your head as if you're tipping the water out towards your head. Okay, a couple more, just take yourself forwards and backwards. Maybe make the movement a little bit smaller each time, so that when you get to that midpoint, you are halfway between tilting the water out towards your feet and halfway before tilting the water out towards your head. Okay, that should be your neutral position. Now, there's a couple of ways of just creating some checks just to make sure you are in the right position. What I would say is find the knobbly bits at the front of your pelvis, okay? And place the palm of your hand on top of the knobbly bits. Then your longest finger should go down towards your pubic bone. So as your hands are resting in that position, what you shouldn't be doing is having your fingers tilted up towards the ceiling or your fingers tilted down towards the floor. Your hands should be lying flat. So if you put your hands in that position, you should be lying your hands should be lying flat on your pelvis, okay? So if you're over tilted and your fingers are too far down, you may need to just soften your back a little bit more, or if your fingers are pointing up towards the ceiling too much, you may just need to roll down towards your toes a little bit more, okay? But try and have your hands so they lie flat on that pelvis. The second way to check that you're doing okay is to put your hand underneath your low back, okay? So if you are too tilted back, your back is going to be flat against the mat. In Pilates, we want a natural arch. Our backs are designed in what we call this lordosis, so this curve through the spine. It's natural to have a little bit of curve. Not too much, but a little bit of curve. So it does mean that when we're lying down in this position, you don't want your back completely flat against the mat. What you want to be able to do is take that hand, place it underneath the small of your back, so the low part of your lumbar spine, and you should be able to get your hand in and just have a little bit of movement just to wiggle your fingers. Not to flap your hand around, that would be too arched, but just to create a little bit of space so you could just freely move your fingers, okay? So have a little check-in with that, okay? When you're happy with that, just let your arms just relax by your side and just take in how it feels to lie in that neutral position, because we have got you, so from the waist down, we've got you set up into neutral. From the waist up, it's pretty simple. Just let your shoulders relax down towards the mat. Try not to be holding your shoulders up towards the ceiling or towards your ears. Just let your shoulders relax down, okay? And your head position, you want to be looking straight up towards the ceiling, so you're not tilting your head back, or you're not trying to look down towards your knees at all. Your head's just looking directly up towards the ceiling. Okay, so that is our neutral position. So like I say, just lie in that position, just take stock of how that feels, how well, comfortable, different, you know, just see how it feels at the minute. Because the next part that we're going to do is we're going to look at activating through our deep core muscles. So in Pilates, people are often talking about our deep core muscles, and there's lots of philosophies and theories on what we need to do with these muscles. From my point of view, you need to know where they are and you need to know how to switch them on. But when we're doing a lot of the exercises, they are going to switch on naturally. So if you can't find these muscles working in this exercise that we do now, don't panic. Because when you go on to do the Pilates exercises, a lot of the exercises you do, you don't have to consciously switch them on. They are going to work. As long as we're doing the exercises correctly, then your core, it's going to have to switch on. Okay, so let's take your hands, find those knobbly bits at the front of your pelvis again. So on your hip bones there, or your pelvis bones. Go in about an inch and then down towards your pubic bone about an inch. So you're in the squishy muscle tissue here. Okay, this muscle here, it's called your transverse abdominis muscle, and basically it goes between one side of your pelvis and the other, and it just acts as a sling to hold everything in and in place. Okay, so if you imagine like the support network of your back, you've got the muscles going around through your back, you've got the muscles coming around through the front. If this bit isn't strong and supported, then your back's doing all the work, and that's how we find that quite a lot of people having back problems, etc. So here is our job to learn how to switch this muscle on. So you come in an inch and down an inch. You're on the squishy bit of the muscle. Now, what I want you to do is imagine that you are wearing a belt around your hips. So you're wearing like hipster jeans with a belt on, okay? And you're going to imagine it is the week after Christmas, and it's the first day you've had to put these jeans back on after a very eating lots of food at Christmas, basically. So what you're going to do is, when you're putting your jeans on, you don't draw all of the muscles in up here, because the jeans don't come up here. These are hipster jeans, they're only going to come around here. So I want you to just imagine that you're breathing in to do the belt notch up, one button tighter than you actually can get into, okay? So as you breathe in, you're squeezing your muscles to try and squeeze into that pair of jeans. And as you breathe out, just let everything relax. Okay, now see, did something happen underneath your fingers? It's not going to be like a massive, you know, when you tense your glutes or tense your biceps, you really know something's happening. That transverse abdominis muscle, it's more just a flicker of just noticing it's starting to switch on. If you're getting like a real big, you know, like a biceps muscle reaction, you might be recruiting a few too many muscles, because we've got 3 layers of abdominal muscles that go through here, and we're only trying to activate the deepest down one. Okay, so You really just want to be feeling just like a flattening or a slight tightening underneath your fingers. So take your fingers back to those knobbly bits again, go in an inch, down an inch, and we're going to imagine that we are going into that pair of jeans that are a little bit too tight. And then relax everything. Okay, that's one way of trying it. If that doesn't work for you, have a go at this one. Takes a little bit more imagination, this one, but you're going to imagine your hip bones, and you're going to imagine that as you breathe in, you're going to push your hip bones towards the walls either side of you, okay? It's not physically going to happen, your pelvic bones don't move, but in imagining that, you actually activate the muscle and you draw the muscle down to switch it on. So have a go. So breathe in, see if you can push your hip bones apart, and then breathe out and just let everything relax. Do a few more in your own time. Breathe in, have a play, see which one works. See if you can imagine pulling yourself into that tight pair of jeans, or if you can push your hip bones to opposite sides. It really doesn't matter which one works for you. And again, if neither feel like they're doing anything for you right now, don't panic. It will come. It's not something that you do the first time and you're going to be an expert at it. That's not a problem. Again, something to practice for homework. So if you can get that feeling, what we're going to do now is as you breathe in, you're going to switch that muscle on. So you're going to draw your hip bones apart or squeeze into that tight pair of jeans. And as you breathe out, we're just going to get you to lengthen one leg away. So you're keeping that muscle switched on. Breathe in as you bring that leg back. And breathe out, take the other leg away. Make it easy for yourself and keep your foot in contact with your floor or your mat. Breathe in as you draw it back in. Now we're keeping that muscle switched on. Keep that core, that transverse abdominal switched on. Breathe out, take the leg away. Breathe in as you draw it back. Breathe in as you push the leg away. Opposite leg now. Breathe in as you draw it back. That's it. Breathe out, blow the leg away. Breathe in as it comes back. Perfect. Good. Breathe out, take the leg away. Breathe in as it comes back and just stop there. Okay, perfect. Let everything relax and just feel comfortable through the pelvis again. Okay, what we're going to do is take our attention to the ribs now. So in Pilates, we've talked about the breathing going through the ribs and then widening and softening. So we can just imagine taking a nice breath in, pop your hands on the lower part of your ribs, and I want you to feel your hands being pushed apart, and then draw in as you breathe out. So breathe in, hands push apart, breathe out, let them soften and come back together again. Good. Breathe in, hands push apart, and breathe out, they soften back in. Good. Breathe in, widen through the ribs, last one, and breathe out as they soften back down. Good. Okay. Perfect. So that's, again, homework to practice through there. What we're going to do now is we're going to look at maintaining this position of the ribs as we move the arms around. So I'm going to get you to take your arms up towards the ceiling. Okay. Recheck in with yourself that the ribs are in that neutral position and you've still got that little arch through your back. You might just need to check that you've got your hand in the right, your hand's okay to slip in there and just wiggle your fingers. So we've got the right position with the ribs. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a nice breath in. As you breathe in, think about that pelvis again, about either squeezing into your jeans or pushing your hips apart. So you're breathing in. And as you breathe out, you're going to take your arms down towards the floor behind you. Okay, breathe in as you come up and breathe out as you take your arms down. Good. Breathe in as they come up. And breathe out as you go down. So that's the pattern that we're working with. Now, what I need you to do is take some of your attention to your ribs, because as you take your arms back, if you're really tight through your shoulder girdle, through the ribs, etc., what will happen is as you take your arms back, the ribs will start to rise and that arch through your back will increase. Okay, so you need to be quite conscious of how far can you take your arms before that arch starts to happen. I mean, you might be able to get all the way, that's great. And we were able to keep the ribs in the right place. But if you are quite tight through the shoulders and ribs, you might get so far back and then the ribs will start to raise up. So you need to work to keep your back in that neutral position that we talked about. Good. Let's just do a few more. So breathe out, take your arms back. Tension goes to your ribs, so keep paying attention to what's happening through the ribs. Breathe in as you come up. Last one. Breathe out as you go down. Good. Breathe in as you come back up. Super. Just let your arms relax. We're going to take you onto your side. We're going to talk about the setup on your side. So roll yourself over onto your side. And we're going to come into this position. Let's have your arm in this position. So leave your arm out straight and leave it as a pillow for your head. Okay, so from here, I want you to think about stacking your shoulders on top of each other and then stacking your hips on top of each other. So the tendency for this, depending which way your back is that the hips roll too far forwards or we start to lean quite far backwards. So really think about stacking the hips on top of each other. Think about the shoulders on top of each other. Okay, it might help if you put this top arm down on your side here, because when we rest the hand here, naturally that top shoulder falls forward. So until you get used to having your shoulder back and down, it might be easy just to rest your hand in this position to start off with. Okay, so now gravity takes effect and it's going to draw this middle part of your waist down towards the mat. And that's what we don't want to happen, because instead of having a nice straight spine now, we're going to have a little bit of a smiley face spine. Okay, so we want to flatten out that smile. So we do this by imagining, actually moving that top hip. So where we're sat like this, if I exaggerate it, we're like this. What we want to do is take that top leg. Imagine you're lengthening the leg away. Okay, so even though you've got your knees together and your knees, feet and ankles together, imagine you were lengthening that top leg. If you really can't get the grasp of doing that, try lengthening that top leg out, and you'll just feel that the waist will lift a little bit more. So it's imagining you're lengthening that leg out. So all I'm going to do is ask you to keep your knees in this position. So lengthen your leg out if it helps, first of all. Okay, so now we've got that feeling of the waist lifting up. Okay, and see if you can maintain that position with your waist and just bring your leg back a bit. You'll feel that the muscles are going to start to work. So this core muscle is now starting to switch on without you having to do too much work for it. Okay? So what we're going to do is just do one exercise while we're in this position. So all I want you to do is, while we do this exercise, is maintain that little arch underneath the spine. It's not going to be, I mean, you're not going to see an arch through there, certainly not with me. You're not going to see an arch through there, but it's that imagination and that engagement of the muscle as if you were creating a little arch underneath your waist there. Okay, so keep knees and feet together to start off with. And what we're going to do is, as you breathe out, keeping your feet together, I'm going to ask you to just raise the top knee up as you breathe out, and then breathe in as lower it back down again. Okay, now as you do this, we need to keep the spine nice and straight. Okay, so temptation when you do this exercise is, as that knee comes up, is to roll off of your bottom hip. Okay, you need to think about the pressure that's going through your hip in your start position, and maintain the pressure as you lift the leg up. So in order to, as what essentially we're doing is we're switching on your glute muscle. So with your top arm, if you put your hand onto your bottom, you might feel that muscle start to switch on. Okay, so it's breathe out as you lift the knee up, and breathe in as you lower it back down again. Good. Breathe out as it lifts up. Breathe in as it goes back down. Keep working with your breathing. Breathe out to lift up, and breathe in to lower back down again. Perfect. Okay, so keep going with that. I'll just talk you through. So your glute muscles, you might feel them working quite hard as you do this. You might not feel anything happen at the moment. It all depends what state your glutes are in, really. Realistically, we need to do a little bit more sort of work through the leg in order to get the glutes to really switch on. But this at least starts to get, the muscle starts to wake up as we do this. And as this class is just about finding neutral position and just getting used to doing the exercises, all I want you to do is just make sure that your back's not rolling forwards or rolling backwards as you're doing this. Perfect. Good. Okay, just finish up with that one, and I'm going to get you to spin over onto the other side so we can just check the other side. Okay. That's it. When you're there, have your arm in that position as a pillow. And then just recheck, position yourself. So think about shoulders stacked on top of each other, so you're not scrunched forwards or backwards. Hips stacked on top of each other. Okay. Rest that top arm on top of your leg if you want to, because we're going to be feeling through the glutes in a second. And think about lifting your waist up. So see if you can lift the waist without stretching the leg out. If you need to though, lengthen that top leg out, and that's going to lift the waist up a little bit. Good. And then if you needed to lift, oh, I'll get my teeth in. If you needed to lengthen that leg away, then just see if you can keep that waist lifted as you bring the knee back to start position. Good. Okay, so here we go. Hands on your glutes there. As you breathe out, we're going to lift that top knee up, and as you breathe in, you lower it back down again. Good. Breathe out as you lift up. Breathe in as it comes back down. Good. Breathe out, lift up. Breathe in as it comes back down. So all we're checking is that you're not rolling off that bottom hip. You're not allowing yourself to come forwards, or as you lift the knee, you're not opening too far that you're rolling back onto your towards your back. So a couple more. Breathe out as you come up. Breathe in as you come back down. Good. Breathe out as you lift. Breathe in as you come back down. Perfect. Okay, so that's great. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to get you up onto all fours. Okay, so you're going to come onto this all fours position. I'm going to talk about neutral setup on all fours, but we're going to do an exercise where you're really going to feel your core starting to activate, which is why I really quite like this exercise as a beginner's one. So when you're setting up on all fours, you need to make sure that your knees are underneath your hips. So there we go. And that your hands are directly underneath your shoulders. Okay. With your neck, make sure your head's not dropping down, but also you're not looking too far up. So your neck is an extension of your spine. Okay, you are going to think about what's happening through your spine. So we don't want to be arched down, and equally you don't want to be pushed too far up. So you might want to do a couple of those stretches. So push your spine up towards the ceiling, and then it sink down, and then just take it to the other position. So you're going all the way up and all the way down. So you know you've got the two extremes. Now find your position midway between the two. And what I tend to say with this one is imagine you're balancing a tray of drinks across your pelvis and a tray of drinks across your shoulders, okay? And they shouldn't start sinking towards the middle of your spine. And equally, if you were pushed too far up, they shouldn't be rolling off your pelvis or off your shoulders. You should be able to balance them nice and comfortably there. Okay, so from here, all we're going to do is think about activating the core a little bit. So just think, maybe from here, imagine drawing your tummy button up towards your spine. So nothing else, ribs don't move, just draw your tummy button in towards your spine. That's it, and then just let it relax back out. So that's the movement that we're going to try and get. Now, how about leave it all relaxed at the moment? And what I'm going to get you to do is just with one hand, keep your arms straight. I'm going to want you to imagine you're lifting your hand up just enough to slide a piece of paper underneath your hand and then place it back down again. We're going on to the other side. Lift your hand up as if you were taking a piece of paper underneath your hand and put it back down again. So it's not a bend and lift. Your arm is staying straight because all it's doing is literally just hovering and placing it back down again. So you're not actually seeing too much happen. It's just a lift and place back down, and then with the other side, just a lift. And actually, people when they do this are quite surprised how much they feel happening through your abdominals there. So maybe we can work with the breathing now. So breathe out as you lift your hand up, and breathe in as you pop it back down again. Good. Breathe out as you lift up with your other hand, and breathe in as you place back down again. Good. There we go. Keeping the spine in that neutral position. So don't lose focus with the spine and start to sink. Make sure that we're still keeping nice and flat through the spine. Just keep working one hand, place it back down. Other hand, lift, place back down. Actually quite a strong, for such a small movement, it's actually quite surprising how much of your core muscle starts to get switched on. So let's just finish up with one arm. Okay, perfect. So now what we're going to do is same again with the legs. Now it gets a little bit more tricky with the legs, but we're going to try and lift knee and foot and place back down again. and then on the other side, knee and foot. Now be really careful with this one because the temptation is to lift a little, or to sort of swing all the way onto one knee so you can lift the leg up. And I also see all sorts of things in classes. People do the whole dog against the lamppost sort of movement, but all we're going to do is just lift knee and ankle, and it's literally enough to place a piece of paper underneath. So you're not trying to, if you lift too high, and if you try to lift too high, that's where it all goes wrong, okay? So we go, breathe out, lift, breathe in as you place back down, breathe out and lift, breathe in as you place back down. Now if you notice, I didn't cue you to lift to activate through your core, but just take note what's happening. Don't think about activating through the core, or the muscle, that transverse abdominis that we were talking about earlier. But just take note what's happening, because I'm pretty sure as you're doing this, you should feel something happening down there. Good. So just a couple more. One, breathe out to lift, breathe in to pop down, breathe out to lift, breathe in to pop back down. Last one, breathe out as you lift, breathe in as you pop back down, and just sit back onto your heels and just give your wrists a little bit of a rotate. There's quite a few modifications with the all fours, so if you do suffer with wrists and arms, there are modifications that we can do onto forearms and things like that, but we're not going to go through that today. But there are modifications, so don't panic, because there's a lot of exercises that we do in Pilates that are on all fours. It's a really good position for naturally activating the core. They say that realistically, if you're sitting to activate through the core, you've got to do it consciously. The only way that you will truly activate your core without thinking about it is when you're on all fours, which is why we do quite a lot of exercises on all fours. Okay, so just last position we're going to talk about today is lying onto your front. Okay, so you're going to lie face down onto the mat, and you're going to have your hands resting down by your sides. I think. Let's have you here. Okay, so I'm going to turn my head to face the camera, but you are going to lie on your front. You put your forehead onto the mat and your eyes are looking directly down into the mat. Just let your shoulders relax and your hands by your side, so it will look like this. Okay, so now if you're doing that, you won't need to look at me, and I will talk you through now. So your forehead is on the mat, your pubic bone is going to get pushed into the mat. At the same time, you're trying to lift your tummy button away from the mat, okay? What we're trying to aim to do is not have too much of an arch going on through the back. So if you're quite arched through the back, lying on your front is quite a nice way of doing it, because you can't overarch, because obviously the floor is in the way. But what we want you to do is just engage a little bit through the pelvis. So push your pubic bone down into the mat, lift your tummy button up and away from the mat, and from here, slide your fingers both sides towards your feet a little bit. So you're drawing your shoulders away from your ears, okay? And all I'm going to get you to do for the exercise here is, as you breathe out, you're going to push your palms up towards the ceiling. So you're keeping your arms nice and straight. Push your arms away from you and lift, and breathe in as they lower back down again. So you breathe out, push your fingers towards your feet and up towards the ceiling at the same time, and breathe in as they come back down. Good. Breathe out, lift, breathe in as they come back down. Now, keep going with your arms, check in with what's happened, because, I mean, Pilates, there's lots of things to think about in Pilates, and you are going to feel the first few times you do it that you've got a lot of instructions thrown at you. So we're asking you to breathe out and lift the arms up, but I need you to take half a little bit of your attention and just check in with your tummy button and your pubic bone, just to make sure that you haven't just collapsed in the middle and we've maintained that neutral position. Okay, so you are still nice and neutral with the pelvis. So we've rotated the pubic bone in towards the mat. You've lifted through your tummy button. You're breathing out as your arms are pushing away and lifting up, and you're breathing in as they're coming back down again. Good. Two more. Let's breathe out, lift, and breathe in as your arms come back down. Good. Breathe out and lift, and breathe in as they come back down. Perfect. Good. And just let your arms just go nice and heavy by your side. Let your shoulders relax down into the mat, and let your legs relax the tension out of your legs there. Perfect. Okay, and just very gently come and sit yourself up. Okay. Perfect. Okay, we do some exercises sitting as well. A lot of them are moving on and more advanced, but let's just talk a little bit about the sitting position. So when you are doing a Pilates sitting move, you're going to be thinking about those, they're called your ischial tuberosities, but basically the bones that you sit on at the bottom. You need to plant them right into the mat and make sure you're not sort of slumped back and curving through your pelvis too much, so you're sitting on the flat bit of your pelvis at the back. We need to be sitting right up tall. And if your hip flexors are quite tight, it's going to be quite difficult to get right up onto your sitting bones. So these are some of the things that we work to practice, and why some of the exercises to do this can be quite challenging. So really try and sit yourself up nice and tall. Have the knees and feet hip width apart, so make sure they're not too wide and they're not together. So you want to look down through the legs, that knees, ankles and feet are all in line with your hips. Sit yourself up as tall as you can. Think about putting your shoulder blades down into your back pockets. And all I'm going to get you to do from here is you're going to take a nice deep breath in to prepare. And as you breathe out, let's see if we can get your arms going up towards the ceiling. So breathe in and breathe out as you lift your arms up. Okay, thinking it's such a simple movement, how difficult can that be? But ask yourself what's happening through your pelvis, through that lower abdominal muscles. So as you bring your arms up, you might feel that muscle starts to switch on. If it doesn't, that's fine. So if it doesn't switch on, or you're not feeling it, to try and encourage it a little bit more, we're going to now allow you to come off of your sitting bones. You're just going to slump back a little bit. So we're creating a little bit of a wider angle between your abdomen and your hip flexors here. Okay, so what we're going to do is breathe out, lift the arms up. Now you should start to feel it switching on. Breathe in as your arms come back. Good. Breathe out, arms come up. And breathe in as it comes back. So you should start to feel something really starting to happen in there. Breathe out as your arms come up. Breathe in as they go back down. Let's do 2 more. Breathe out. And breathe in. Good. Breathe out. And breathe in. And just bring yourself right back up onto your sitting bones again. Perfect. Okay. We are going to get you back up to standing, so very gently, just take yourself over onto your knees and then bring yourselves up to standing again. Perfect. Okay, so we're just going to finish off by just getting our neutral position as we're standing again. So let's just see how much we can remember getting back into that neutral standing position. So feet are hip width apart. Toes facing forwards as much as possible. Just think about taking your weight forwards and backwards on your toes and your heels. So you're finding that balance point between the two. Good. And then relax through your knees. Lengthen up through the spine. Imagine you're being pulled up towards the ceiling. And we're just going to slide your shoulder blades into opposite back pockets. So we've now got that sense of lengthening and space through the neck. Good. Let's take ourselves down into a little roll down. So think about lengthening through the neck. Chin comes down towards your chest, and you're going to open up through each of the bones of your spine as you peel yourself forwards and down. Go as far as you're comfortable to go before you have to let your hips join in. When your hips join in, think about them rolling forwards so that your arms are then just coming down towards your toes, and you've kept equal pressure between your toes and your heels the whole way down. And very gently just stack back up. One on top of the other, shoulders round into back pockets and lengthen up nice and tall. We'll do one more roll down to finish. So lengthen through the spine, tilt your chin down towards your chest while you're thinking about lengthening your ears up towards the ceiling. Peel through your spine one by one. Really try and keep your hips on top of your knees until they have to move. And just see if we can just get a tiny little bit further this time. You may notice you've got a millimetre further. And then restack back up again. One on top of the other. Shoulders round into opposite back pockets before you come up to standing too quickly. Good. Perfect. So that's been a sort of whistle-stop tour of the basics of Pilates. If you found that useful or you want any more information, then obviously get in touch. We've got beginners style exercises on our ultimate package, which we've got some pre-recorded videos. We've also got some specific beginners classes. But if you've got any specific questions or anything that going on to do with your back or anything like that, and you want to know how Pilates will benefit you, then just get in touch and be more than happy to have a conversation with you about it. But yeah, I hope that's been helpful, and look forward to seeing you in other classes at some point. Okay?
Thank you.
No worries.
Bye.
Bye.
Mm.